The Northrend lore, 99% missed. Crucial for the last Titan. Now, we already know this. It's confirmed. We're going back to Northrend for the last Titan. It makes a lot of sense. There's all these Titan facilities already over there. We've done the whole Ulduar, all these raids and everything else that had to do with Titan facilities and stuff. So, yes, Northrend's going to play a big role in the last Titan, of course. But how big of a role? What's the lore gonna do? Are we ever gonna get a redemption tour for the Lich King after he got turned into fucking Anima in Shadowlands? I don't know, we'll find out. Let's jump into this video real quick and see what Bellular has to say.
Sponsored by Squarespace. Northrend, the continent of World of Warcraft's most successful expansion. And more than anything, it's the continent that we remember. Beyond the Lich King, beyond Yogg-Saron, and all those huge stories driving Wrath of the Lich King.
Arriving on that ship in North, that's just the Howling Fjord, like the music, the sound. I miss it, man. I still remember that like it was yesterday.
We remember the March.
No cock like horse cock. Send your asshole into shock. You need horse cock, of course cock.
Jesus
Grab
Christ.
the loop and slam the dick.
This is why I gotta pause blurps. I can't give you children toys. I can't.
On the Wrathgate, finding Dalaran in the Argent Tournament grounds, we entered a continent that felt alive, filled with civilizations, dangers, and adventure. The good news is that the last Titan is going to bring us back to a revamped, a remade Northrend.
That's exciting.
But here's the thing. Northrend has not been quiet since then. So today, we brought together all of the lore that's happened since, and we're going to go zone by zone to find out what the last Titan will look like. I've also got a bit of a challenge for you. Give me 30
zone
minutes
by
and
zone.
sponsor, you'll finally have the website that you've been meaning to build. So Squarespace is an easy-to-use site builder and award-winning templates, but they have developed so much.
It
as a
just got so
platform lately.
quiet. Okay,
Design Intelligence
Squarespace,
is
yeah.
a mix of tools that help you access their 20 years of design experience easily. It starts with Blueprint AI, and that starts with a few questions.
Make
Once
your
you answer those,
website
you'll
on
use their interactive
Squarespace
design system to build your own
because
template, just the way that
the
you like
internet's
it.
all we're going to have left
Then
after
you
World
do
War
it
III
right.
breaks out.
Designer
That's right.
picked fonts and color
There's your
palettes,
advertisement.
all
That's what I would do.
matching
Squarespace
aesthetic. And then
sponsored
from
me.
there, you can iterate on your copy and your content. It's all seamlessly integrated. And if you've just been overwhelmed in the past, or you just want to start
What's up,
quickly
Cadence?
with all of your bases covered, this set of features is literally made for you. And their core platform is always growing as well. They've got native video support, so you can have a gorgeous player, you can have video gallery layouts that are all interoperable with their e-commerce tools. It's real impressive, and when I needed sites, Squarespace was my first port of call.
Yeah, I did.
Because they make it easy. So, to get started today, go to squarespace.com/BellularGaming, check out Design Intelligence, and when you're ready to send your site live, use code BellularGaming for 10%
Really,
off
Fib?
your first
Add-ons
purchase.
were a
Site
shit
is
show?
amazing.
Makes sense. Capitals
Blizzard
and
has
hubs.
a buy
All
now
right.
tight expansion framework. We get 4 zones, a capital city, 2 major patch zones, and a bunch of content in between. And that means that on the surface, there's a problem. Look at Northrend. It has 10 zones with its
Oh my god, I just thought about that. I didn't even think about it. Our capital city was Dalaran. Dalaran got turned into dust. What are we going to... Where is our capital city in Northrend going to be? Damn. What if it's Ice Crown Citadel? Wouldn't that be cool? Just like using Ice Crown as our freaking main hub city. Oh, maybe it'll be Dragon Blight, like a rebuilt Dragon Blight. It's really centrally located. I don't know. I can't guess, really. I think for the Midnight expansion, it's going to be Silvermoon. I really do. I think it's going to go cross-faction. They're rebuilding Silvermoon from the ground up. Why would they do that if it's only going to be for one faction still? Already know it's going to be uniting of the elves, and there's elves on both sides. So, yes, cross-faction Silvermoon will be the hub city for the Midnight expansion. Now, this one... Let's see what Bellular is
There's a
going to say.
problem. Look at Northrend. It has 10 zones, with its once-player capital Dalaran, of course, now being destroyed.
Grizzly Hills
What have I told you?
Fortress.
It's not really as it seems.
That'd be cool.
Check this out. This is a size comparison between Northrend and the Dragon Isles in real terms. What we see is that Northrend is about 5% bigger, which really is not a lot. Khaz-Algar is smaller again, but of course it has insane verticality. There's more to this, though. Before moving on to be president of Wizards of the Coast, John Haidt told us this, quote, "We're giving our world builders some free rein to expand. That'll give them more opportunities to introduce some of the smaller points of interest where you'll have a culture or a local tribe." That's what John said, and that's right. Northrend, whenever we go back, may even be a bit bigger. And even if you want to stick to the same 4-zone scheme, just take a look at this map. Northrend can already be split into 4 distinct yet massive areas. So the point of
Off topic, but I hope and pray, and they won't do it because it breaks servers. But man, Wintergrasp, if they brought Wintergrasp back and the Vault back, I would freaking love that. Now they said faction conflict's going to come back a little bit, so maybe they could still work a Wintergrasp into the storyline. But to me, like I don't PvP often, but that was the most fun I ever had PvPing in this game, man. Wintergrasp was so much fun. Yes, it was laggy and broken at times, but it was just genuinely like a good time. Just all these people in one zone fighting each other.
into 4 distinct yet massive areas. So the point of me saying this, of touching the nuts and bolts of development, is
Touching the nuts.
all I see here is opportunity. And speaking of cultures, local tribes, and stories, let's get into the zones and what has happened.
He said that on purpose. Eerie silence. Okay,
New
here we
evidence paints Northrend in a grim light. The Tearsguard believe that chaos reigns on the continent, and Lorthamar Thuron, after suffering a Scourge attack in Quel'Thalas, said that the attack from Deathholm was in fact a symptom of a disease flaring back to life in the north. He directly referenced Northrend having a Scourge problem. But then, a recent trip by Magni, Bran, and Muradin Bronzebeard gave us even more of a look at the reality on the ground. And while a lot is bad, it's not all bad. We're going to begin with the zone of Dragon Blight. You'd think that it still suffers a lot, that pockets of Scourge may exist, and that Naxxramas remains over Winterguard Keep. That is true, but Winterguard...
I kind of hope we don't have another revisiting Naxxramas raid. I think we've done Nax enough. Like, how many times are we going to go kill this thing? It's like Kel'Thuzad. How many times are we going to kill Kel'Thuzad? I think we've been here enough. We've done this enough. We've cleansed it enough times. Let's just move on.
In fact, has
one
locals.
more time.
It has government buildings, homes, farms, and now a growing population. The 7th Legion have moved on to new war fronts, but it does remain as a bastion of the Alliance. Over to the west, Angmar's Hammer still sends out Wolf Rider patrols and stands grim vigil over the Wrathgate. So both the Horde and the Alliance have a presence there, but undoubtedly the Alliance foothold is far larger. That means both factions still have a foot in Northrend's most desolate region, and now what reigns is silence. It's not a silence of inaction, rather, it's an eerie silence. Standing over it all, howling with an empty wind, is Wormrest Temple. Once the crown of the Aspect Power Nazaroth.
I certainly think Wormrest Temple is going to become very relevant again. I mean, we just re-empowered all the dragons with their new, power from Azeroth, power of love and all that shit that they're now powered by. So they'll probably go back to Wormrest Temple when Northrend becomes relevant again, and then we'll spend a bunch of time, I'm sure, questing there or doing some kind of weird, maybe some time gating. Why not? A little bit of time gating never hurt nobody. Blizzard likes to do that. Some time gating shit, questing shit over here.
Now staffed by just a few Draconoid guards. Even the Dragon Shrines now stand empty. And of course,
the Chromie quest was cool.
The Primal Incarnates held bastions in Dragonflight. Iridikron from Harrow Deep, and Viranoth in a place that is called the Frozen Fangs. We'll likely see those when we return. And that isn't just past lore. Iridikron is set to return in The Last Titan to enact his vengeance against the Titans. And Dragonblight looks to be ground zero for his assault, given that is in fact where he used to live. But at least for now, the only dragons that remain are just bones.
That's right, Dragonblight. Wow, Dragonblight's where he used to live. I had no idea about that. And then we got the, not Iridikron, what's this guy's name? The freaking giant dragon that was eating everybody again. Oh no. We actually kind of fought him in the, or we talked about him. Galakrond, right? Galakrond, wasn't that his name? Yeah, I think so. He was the one eating everybody? Yep, Galakrond. So that's right, the bones, the remnants of him are still there. So I wonder if Iridikron's going to try to do something with those to make himself more powerful or to bring him back. Who knows?
The only dragons that remain are just bones. Dragons may return one day, but for now, they're in the Dragon Isles. And that means that Dragonblight has been given new masters, the natives. We now move to the southern coast. This is where Arthas first landed and doomed his men, and there, signs of civilization are appearing. No longer hounded by Helya's Cavaldir and without the constant Scourge attacks, the Tuskarr once again live in their natural rhythms.
Okay, so we missed our chance for playable Tuskarr in Dragonflight, right? Like, I thought it was going to happen. I was like, for sure by the end of Dragonflight, playable Tuskarr. I mean, they're everywhere. They got their models completely revamped. They literally have armor that's now equipable to their models. They obviously have a mount and everything else. Like, this is it. We're getting and then that never happened. So this will be probably our next and last chance to get playable Tuskar.
The Azure Span showed us what their civilization can look like, and along the coastlines of Northrend, expect to meet a now thriving people. Then, of course, we have the Tonka. They're cousins of the Tauren, and they have fled their destroyed lands, moving to the Grizzly Peaks and even into the Storm Peaks.
That's
but
right.
now their villages have expanded into towns, and they take their ownership of the land seriously. Judging by their mistrust of the Bronzebeard brothers, and of course needing to confirm that they were not in fact Iron Dwarves, border skirmishes with the Titan Forged do appear to be common. Still, keep this in mind. Outside of the Scourged hellholes, at least for the time where Bolvar was able to hold them back, Northrend had a proper chance to breathe and to grow, for the first time since the Lich King landed an Ice Crown years ago.
Yeah, you mentioned the Scourge briefly there, then Stoic and Chad. We can only assume that the more intelligent Scourge might have fragmented themselves and are fighting amongst themselves if they haven't joined the Forsaken or some other undead group. I mean, the Scourge is going to be relevant, for sure. I don't know how mindful the Scourge can be. For the most part, they're very mindless. We know the Forsaken are they actually have free will and everything else, but the rest of the Scourge is pretty decrepit, rotted, and just following orders for the most part. Now, who's sending them orders now? Well, without a Lich King, it's kind of just up in the air. They're just kind of roaming at this point, maybe fighting amongst each other. I don't know, but it's going to be a relevant storyline for sure.
Staying within Dragonblight, our journey actually heads back up north again to Wormrest Temple. It was the site of one of Warcraft's most puzzling quest chains, called the Deaths of Chromie. The mystery being, why did everyone want to kill Chromie? From the Obsidian Dragon Shrine, Zorathrides the demon tried to snipe her on top of Wormrest. The Lich, Talar Icechill, attacked from the Ruby Shrine. A Satyr attacked from the Emerald Shrine, and a Void God from the Azure Shrine. We had demons, Void, Old Gods, and Death. Factions who don't get along whatsoever, all trying to take down Chromie. It's a looming part of the plot. Even the Alliance and the Horde took a shot at her in this storyline, and we have still not found out who orchestrated it, or of course what future Chromie did in order to deserve all of that hatred. But think about it this way. After her tussle with the Infinite Flight in the Dragon Isles, and finding sympathy for their cause, there's now an avenue for her to take a dark turn.
And bring back Infinite Chromie. She was cool.
Nosdormu tells us of
She
his
had some good voice
transformation
lines.
into Morozond and how it's no longer inevitable. But the loop still exists, and it's unclear if that is still his future. That might bring us to a realization that the place we first discovered Morozond, the Bronze Dragon Shrine, is perhaps where that loop will finally end, and the story of the Bronze Dragon Flight, the Infinites, and of the deaths of Chromie will finally come to an end. We now head west
not
to
just
the Borean Tundra. It was one of the most diverse zones out there. We had Scourge attacks, we had Naga being at war with the Kavaldir, gnomish airstrips committing bombing campaigns against undead temple cities, and overzealous ecologists dressed up as Murlocs. It was a wild place. The humans of Valen's Keep and Farshire still exist. They still live there, trying to push the boundaries of
I wonder if they can turn this into our hub city. I mean, this was still being built while we were in Northrend too. So, I mean, there's some locations that they could just build out more and turn it into a hub city. But this, I don't know if they would have to make this cross-faction or something if they wanted this specifically to become the city. We'll see.
Their land, but they're now doing that without the internal menace of the Cult of the Damned, and because of that, they've actually made progress. However, the Horde, well, on the other hand, they've not had so much progress. Warsonghold, once personal fortress of Garrosh Hellscream, now is covered in cobwebs. It's abandoned. From afar, the Bronzebeard brothers say that it looks like a thing of horror, pointing to Nerubian still posing a threat in the north. But of course, the Borean Tundra is not just tundra. On its borders are some of the most magically attuned regions in all of Northrend, and they are, in fact, all the more relevant today.
Arcane Order in Life. I remember the novel said that the bases still exist, but they're basically abandoned, just with a skeleton crew now. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, that's how it would be kind of in real life, probably. So yeah, these fortresses, these bases that the Alliance and the Horde built, still active, just run by skeleton crews. So if we decide to go back, yeah, they could expand on them, build them out, and actually turn them into legitimate hub cities. We'll see.
Kuldara, once Malagos' throne, may be the last active Dragonflight stronghold in the north. and make no mistake, it's an important one. There are way too many powerful magical artifacts there for Kelgos to ignore. And the last time they lost track of stuff, Garrosh stole a focusing iris and built the mana bomb that destroyed Theramore. I, of course, can't tell you what's going to happen in The Last Titan, but with so much power being located there,
Garrosh had
you
nukes.
can expect that it will be
Garrosh had nukes, that's right. Yeah, somewhat familiar to today's storylines, I don't know.
important. And speaking of The Last Titan, we head again
Maybe
to the
WoW's
north
trying to tell us
to
something.
Sholazar. It is a crater carved into the land and made into a biological lab by the Titan Aeonar. Now, we've previously explained that Aeonar may be on one side of a civil war between titans, but the legacy of her work remains there. We have Gorloks. They're Murlocs who evolved through contact with Titan machinery. And because of that, we should not write them off. You see, when he traveled there, Magni was still in his diamond form. Seeing him, the Gorloks called him a Thragar.
Oh,
we,
what?
of course, now know from the War Within that a Thragar is actually an ancient earthen world.
Yeah, well, I had no idea. I forgot. Did they really refer to him as a Thragar that far back? Blizzard dropping seeds from that far back? That's impressive.
Word for those who rebelled against their Titan creators. So, extremely relevant to the Last Titan expansion. Those
Man,
Gorloks
those are
certainly
ugly
knew
shit.
their stuff. And as for their Wilvar enemies, some still remain at Frenzy Heart Hill, but we know from a Bronze Dragon Shrine quest that they will one day return to their ancestral lands, leaving Sholazar to its smart Murlocs and hyper-evolved dinosaur monsters. With that said, we can now visit the next megazone. Let me bring you on a journey through the new Howling Fjord, one that starts with a fjord you know, but that reaches its natural end in Zoldrak. This was the iconic intro to Northrend for so many of us. We sailed through the fjords, we landed, and were thrown into the fray against the Vrykul. The Alliance...
Another potential playable race, the Vrykul. I mean, who doesn't want to be a massive Viking human? They would be a great addition.
Never managed to gain a solid foothold there, only a thin logistical line pushing the Argents towards Icecrown. Valgard still comes under attack from the Vrykul, but these Vrykul are different. They're young warlords who are trying to make a name for themselves, so different to what we saw before. Elsewhere in the zone, the Forsaken still have the place locked down. New Angmand, Vengeance Landing, and the various apothecary camps still dot the fjords, and being so far from home, they've been slow to react to the political changes back in Lordaeron. Marching north then, Camp Winterhoof and Fort Wildvar, a traditional flashpoint between the Alliance and the Horde, shows the diplomatic success between the factions post-Lich King. So essentially, it's a calm enough spot. But past the Barrier Mountains, and now we're in to the Grizzly Hills. That's where giants in earthen
How did he not mention the elevator, man? That thing killed so many people. Gotta have the elevator.
once fought to the death, and that's where we will see
Grizzly
what has
Hills.
truly changed in Northrend.
Best music ever.
The Grizzly Hills is in fact so iconic that it inspired much of the Azure span. It's beautiful. To many of us, it has a special place in our hearts. And when we return, it will be different. There will be huge valleys of trees, but there will be new surprises around each corner. Because if you dive into the lore, you find the time very much has advanced in this location. The Grizzlemaw furbolgs do remain in the husk of Ordrasil. Of course, after we helped plant the seed of a new world tree. That world tree has been growing since, and without Nightmare Contagion, the Furbolg have managed.
You bet, from chat, I bet that they do an expansion city in Grizzly Hills. I mean, it's such a loved zone, a beloved zone. They could, but I think they'd be a little bit afraid to change the zone too much. Because it's so iconic. People love it so much. It's such a great place to be. You just love wandering around in the city. If they put a city in there, it would just have to be very non-disruptive. Like, you can't just completely eliminate a giant portion of the zone. Maybe it's a log cabin city. I have no idea. But they could. They could put it there. It's a pretty big zone. Yeah, just don't change the music. Exactly.
Manage to keep their sanity. And if you've completed the Winterpelt Furbolg rep in Dragonflight, you'll even be able to speak their language, so I imagine there'll be some sort of callback. But there are just as many dangers, as an example, with the Cult of the Wolf. That was Arugel's final experiment with Worgen, and it still haunts the Glades. Yet it's the ancient war between giants and iron dwarves that interests me most here. From Donorgal to their still ruined capital of Thormodan, the iron dwarves have turned their once hatred of life to servicing the Titans' many, many machines. They are now forging new earthen within the Iron Crucible under the leadership of a mysterious female Iron Dwarf. Even after settling a grudge against the Titan Forge, they are still waging war against the Giants. Those old hatreds are dying hard. And that chaos means that when the Titans return, we're unsure whose side they'll even be on. But pushing north again, we see a city zone carved into the rock of the mountain itself.
Some gone,
Bronzebeards
some
marveled
remain.
over the sights they saw in Zoldrak, but of course they were cautious.
I wonder if we go back to Zoldrak at some point, if we get like more Bwansamdi lore, because what is he up to? What's he was such a cool character that came out of BFA, and it's not like he died or something. He's still around, but Bwansamdi's been kind of quiet. Now he could come back for this, right? Isn't this a site of some Loa or something? I forget the lore for this, but it's very much like a troll Loa death related area. So maybe he comes back for this
place. The Drakari trolls had sacrificed their own gods in an attempt to
Yeah,
ward
Narian.
off the Scourge, leading, of course, to the downfall of their society. But look below the surface and you'll find seeds of renewal in this zone. You see, the Winteraxe tribe left their parent Drakari tribe long ago, but have since returned to Northrend. In Zandalar, they didn't...
They cannibalized their Loa. That's right. Yeah, they murdered him. Yeah, so I mean, I wonder, man. I'm sure Bwansamdi would see that as some kind of freaking blasphemy. So I don't know, but he comes there, he cleanses the area. I have no idea.
House of Fallen tribes, so we can assume they still operate out of Zoldrak's ruins. Then smaller tribes like the Ice Tusk live in island chains surrounding Northrend, and they still practice necromancy. Putting all of this together, it's now clear that a broad church of ice trolls are returning and they are rebuilding. That brings us near the pinnacle of Northrend, but before we go to the crown of the world, we need to fly to the once pinnacle of our campaign in the north, and that, of course, is Icecrown Glacier.
Glacier.
Icecrown is a patchwork of Scourge warlords and desperate Ebonblade knights trying to hold them back. Now, we always knew that without the Helm of Domination, the Wild Scourge would run rampant.
Right.
And, of course, now that that helm is destroyed, that's precisely what is happening. We players have just been ignoring it. So many other important things have been happening, and in fact...
So I mean, with Shadowlands lore, the Tiara of Wills, or whatever the fuck they call it, the Crown of Wills, it's stupid-ass shit. That thing does not act as the same or as a replacement to the Helm of Domination. It's a completely different thing. So it's made for no reason whatsoever. Oh, it made the what's his name, the little fuckboy angel, the Arbiter. Okay, so what? That's great for the afterlife, but this world's completely fucked over now because we destroyed the freaking Helm of Domination.
I have a whole video
What's the
deep
solution?
diving into the consequences of that for you to watch. You can watch it after this one. But for now, just know that any return to Icecrown means one thing: war with the Scourge.
Yeah.
That is a war that we will have to end before the Titans take a swing at us. And that brings us to the ultimate zone in a revamped Northrend.
Speaking of revamps, what if they revamp Invincible? Yeah? You're going to tell me that I return to Icecrown Citadel for whatever kind of raid. It could be a Titan raid. It's the showdown site for the last Titan, whatever it is. But the final boss drops a revamped version of Invincible. And you're going to tell me that wouldn't be one of the most chased down mounts in the entire game? It sure would be. And I wish.
Below Wintergrass
Can
Peak,
we
the
revamp
lone
you? No.
giant Archivon remains vigil over the secrets of the Titans. Throughout Northrend,
Yeah.
servants of the Titans
That's true, Clarmedia. It wouldn't drop for me. That's right. It's been over a decade of me chasing the original version.
trust and wait for the day that their creators will return. That day is about to come, and if we follow the path of the
Is Frostmourne still around? If you played as a Death Knight in Legion, you would know that like the shards of Frostmourne were used to create some of your Legion legendaries. So yes and no. It still exists kind of within the hands of Death Knights, but now the power of them has been kind of drained away, right, since the end of Legion. So there's pieces of it out there, but no, Frostmourne itself does not exist anymore.
Titans north from Wormrest, it brings us to the mountains that stretch up into the sky, and below them to machines that bore deep into the earth. This is the Storm Peaks, and it shows us just how frayed the Titans' mission on Azeroth has become. Thorim, once a great keeper, descended into thousands of years of depression after his wife's murder at the hands of the corrupt
Thor
keeper
needs a
Loken.
Xanax.
And even after gaining justice against Loken, his circuits have gone to rust. He actually mistook the Bronzebeards for other dwarves in Earthen that he had recently met, and even his trusty hounds have left his side. It's a sad sight to behold, but it's proof that the Keepers have all but fallen. The one Keeper of Sense, Hodir, Lord of the Ice Giants, may not even be in...
The Ice Giant quests were cool. I hope we get to do some more of that. Riding an Ice Giant was badass. And I think all the Keepers, at some point, they're going to join us against the Titans. I really do. And then Odin's a bitch. We'll end up killing him, too.
the Storm Peaks at all. That's because after fighting and
speaking of
becoming
Odin.
corrupted by the Legion, he was then freed by the forces of High Keeper Odin, leading to Hodir pledging his services to Odin.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the
So that means in the Odin raid, Hodir will be a fucking boss before we get to Odin.
humongous story
There will
that
be an Odin
driving
raid, I'm
us
sure
through
of it.
all of these zones. A showdown with the Titans.
Hold
and
the door,
with
that's
Odin
right.
and Hodir teaming up with them, I think we can now see that the battle lines are being drawn. And if there's any zone for this to play out in, it's the Storm Peaks. The Iron Dwarves keep Ulduar humming without the Keeper's guidance to this day, but it will not remain quiet for long. That's because with the return of Aman'Thul, there is no doubt that Odin will side with his master and creator. And if Blizzard want to represent that with an unbelievable visual, they absolutely have it. Odin landing Skyhold in...
This is so phallic, man. It's so phallic, and he's doing it on purpose. I mean, look at this. Look at Odin riding through the sky. I gotta remove my... He's not wrong. Like, this is what happened. This is how the entirety of the warrior order hall was created. Odin rode this shit out into the sky, but just the visual of this.
Odin landing Skyhold into Ulduar. If you're not aware, Skyhold was
So
actually
good.
a wing of Ulduar. There's a whole backstory there that I don't need to get into, but suffice to say, it landing, being an Ulduar, and perhaps
True,
even
Cody,
taking
yeah.
over the place, well, that could be the first steps of a Titan re-invasion of Azeroth. Indeed, if I was to place a bet on how it'll start, I'd place it on that. This is a story that will drive The Last Titan. It will be the A-plot that will see us through a revamped Northrend. 3 raid tiers, the return of Eridicron, and a showdown with Aman'Thul himself. Too much to fit into today's video, and much of it is, of course, stuff we don't know because it's not happened yet. But luckily, this is the end of a 3-video arc that we've been doing on this channel. It's been pouring over every
Been good
detail we
videos.
know about The Last Titan. And that means you can check out the other 2 episodes. One is on the civil war brewing between the different Titan factions, and the other is how the Scourge really are back. And in a way that is not just speculation. No, in a way that has recently been confirmed in-game.
Good video. Yeah, overall, I mean, ending the World Soul Saga with a return to Northrend, it's fitting. Best expansion, most popular expansion happened there. And a lot of good lore, probably some of the best lore in the game happened there too. So, cool stuff. Excited to go back. We'll see where it all ends up going.